Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Tano Tastes, and this is the first episode that we're going to be doing where we're actually going to taste something. So in the previous episode we did a little bit of a run through about some of the main styles of shochu that you might expect to encounter, and now we're going to try a Barley shochu,
also known as Mugi.
Also known as Mugi shochu, which is the in Japanese it's Mugi shochu. Barley is one of the three main shochus, and probably I would say the most approachable base ingredient for most people new to shochu. So that's why we've got it. So
I agree with that.
Yeah. So it's from Hombo Distillery, which is, this one's called I don't read Japanese, I'm learning, but I'm not very good at it. This is Hitohiro. It's from Hombo Shuzo, which is in Kagoshima in the southern Kyushu island. I was actually here at this very distillery 2 years ago, as part of a little bit of a holiday, and it was a really cool little distillery, quite old, established in 1872. They have this huge column still that no longer functioning, but it's several stories high, and it juts out across the on the coast of Satsuma and the lower regions of Kyushu, and it's a really cool distillery. They're very well known for making imo shochu, which is sweet potato shochu, which we will be reviewing on a future episode, and they're also known for making whiskey under the name of Mars Sunuki whiskey. Actually,
you tried it?
Yeah, I never tried the whiskey. I've tried whiskey here, but I mostly just came for the shochu. The interesting thing is actually Japanese distilleries will tend to change their name if they are making whiskey or shochu. So this will be known as Hombo Shuzo, which is their sake or their shochu distillery, but their whiskey division is called Mars Sunuki. So they tend to separate the name, which can make it a little bit confusing knowing what they do.
Yeah.
When I stumbled across this distillery, I saw Mars Sunuki whiskey, and I just thought it made whiskey, but turns out they also make shochu, which is great.
So this one's a really interesting one. I quite like it. It's barley, obviously. So when we say it's made out of barley, it means that they use steamed pearl barley in general for making mugi shochu.
Not as most whiskies do, which
Correct.
is with
Malt.
malted barley. This is unmalted pearl barley.
Pearl barley. They don't mash it in the traditional way. What they'll do is they'll do what's called a moromi. They'll ferment their koji for anywhere from a couple of days to 10 days or so, which is basically a starter. Then they'll steam their barley at a specific ratio, and then they will add the barley with the koji and water, and then that's known as second moromi, and then it will ferment out. And I think barley tends maybe 10 to 14 days, I think. 10 days?
Yeah, 10 days.
On average. Yeah. Very quick. Obviously, the kali... The koji, the koji breaks down the barley, and because it's pearled, there's no husk on it, so the koji can freely get into the starch, turns it into sugar. And a very important thing that we need to mention is that all shochu is single distillation.
Yeah, we didn't mention that last episode, but yes, true.
That is one thing we didn't mention. Single distillation means that it only goes through the still once, which means that it retains a lot of flavour to it. They use heads, they use tails. It's a different one.
Yeah, whereas most commonly whiskies are usually double distilled. A lot of vodkas are triple distilled. So essentially, the more times you distill it, the less flavour you get, but the higher ABV, the higher alcohol percentage you can get out of the thing. This is going to be single distilled, so full of flavour, but as importantly as we didn't mention in the last episode either, it's bottled at 25% ABV, so a 25%. Lot. So about half of what you might get in a whiskey. However, you don't lose any of the flavour because it's only been single distilled, which is a great little
right. It's a mid-strength alcohol.
It's a mid-strength alcohol, which in today's, right now, people are trying to cut down on the amount that they drink. So hey, rather than
Water down your whiskey to a unpalatable flavour.
Yeah.
Just drink mint-strength shochu.
So good.
Right?
All the flavour without the headache.
Now, another really key fact to this one is that it's made with a black koji. Black koji, of course, is exactly what it says. If you let it grow for too long, it goes black. And black koji has a very high amount of citric acid, which means that when it's being distilled, there's a lot of esters formed from that citric acid. It also means that when it's fermenting, it can ferment in relatively high temperatures because the acid level, there's so much acid in it, the fermentation doesn't get like spoiled or anything like that. You don't get any bad bacteria and stuff. And because black koji is traditionally used a lot in the south of Japan, where it can be quite warm, yeah. It's very useful. It also has like more of what we call that koji taste, that mushroomy kind of
that umami mushroom kind of nutty flavor that you might get. Right.
Yeah. So I think maybe we'll go in and we'll actually have a taste of this, because we're also going to talk about things like atmosphere versus vacuum distillation and yeasts and stuff like that. But
there's a lot of things we don't know because
it's
not printed anywhere. It's not in English, and you can't find it. You can't find it unless you ask the distiller.
So this is the bottle.
Yeah. Quick comment on the bottle. Typically, we'll find shochu bottles are in this kind of wine. Well, this kind of bottle looking thing. Often they'll be in more like a wine style bottle. It'll always be there'll always be katakana or hiragana on it. So you can't really tell what's it's saying unless you use Google Translate or you know what Japanese is. But it is a black bottle. Which is often to avoid any sunlight getting it and maybe oxidizing it. Yeah. That's not always the case here.
Shochu tastes better oxidized.
I agree. So we've already poured a little bit into these little cups. So
let's have a
kanpai.
Kanpai. All right. So on the nose, like usually a lot of the time with black koji.
Oh yeah, you went straight on the nose. I was going straight on for the taste.
You went for the taste. Yeah, I went for the nose. I went for the nose. I'm smelling it. I'm working up to it. Okay,
good. It's good. Yeah.
It's a little floral.
Mm-hmm. Which might be an indication of vacuum distill.
It could be an indication. Like in general, so when we're talking about atmospheric and vacuum distilled, atmospheric will tend to be heavier, kind of like heavier flavors, heavier kind of sense. With vacuum distilled, I found, it's not none of this is a hard and fast rule, right? Yeah. Nothing that we talk about is hard and fast. There's too much variation. I do find though with vacuum distillation that there's always a certain light floral kind of note to it, especially with Imo Shochu, but sometimes with Barley Shochu. Barley Shochu, I don't think I've had a couple of vacuum distilled Barley Shochus, but we were talking about this earlier. You think it's atmospheric distilled.
I think it's atmospheric distilled.
I don't think it's vacuum distilled. I think that it could be two different things, right?
Oh, okay.
It could be a blend of atmospheric and vacuum distilled, which happens a lot. You can get a really nice balance between that floralness and that earthiness that you get. A lot of shochu distillers do that. They do blends. Or it could be, apparently these guys patented their own distillation technique in 2013. Or some
2019, I think it says. 2019, they started doing their own technique. Their
own technique.
Who knows what that means?
Who knows what that is, because we could not find any information on it. Maybe if we could speak Japanese, we'd find out. If anybody's good at this, go and hunt it down for us. But they actually patented their own distillation technique. It could be a combination, or it could be something like that. You said they have that big continuous still, right?
Yeah. And it's very old, so I'll be surprised if they're still using it.
Did you get a photo of that?
I have a photo of it somewhere.
Yeah, see if we can find that.
It's kind of like in their museum.
Yeah, so I don't know. I really don't know. Some shochus I can pick.
I don't know if we mentioned it or not before, but barley tends to lean towards the sort of more mellow flavor, slightly sweeter.
Very approachable.
That kind of sweet. Like obviously barley, like it's not. When you say barley, you think of whiskey, and you think whiskey, and you think, but that's all from the. It's a lot of that's from the wood. So if you remove the wood, you end up with quite a light, sweet, tasting spirit.
But it's also not a white dog because it's not malty. It doesn't have that malt.
So it doesn't have that malt. It's not malted barley, and then
maybe if you had an Irish whiskey, a white dog Irish whiskey or something like that.
Unaged Irish whiskey. This might be more something like this. Yes, if you've had an Irish
and we're
whiskey,
talking about the barley profile here, not the actual profile of the drink as a whole.
Yes, This is not this drink necessarily, but this is as a general rule of thumb. We like barley shochus because they are approachable. They're mellow. They're sweet. They don't try to hit you in the face too much. However, this one, because it's got black koji, I think it has a lot more depth to it.
I'm gonna actually drink it now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you should.
Yeah.
It has a lot more depth to it than a typical barley shochu might have, and this may be because of the region it's from. As Fletch said, in Kyushu, it's a bit warmer. Black koji holds up a lot better in warmer climates.
Definitely earthy. It's definitely so my general feeling on this, definitely earthy. It's definitely got that umami from the black koji. It's still on the back of the throat. It's still got a tiny bit of that floralness, like that little flowery kind of like taste just on the back, which is pretty normal for a black koji. It's extremely approachable. It's very, very easy to drink. It's a little tiny bitter, but not astringent. Not a bitterness in a bad way. It's like that bitterness of like, I can feel it like in the pores of my tongue kind of bitterness.
Yeah,
right?
and I think one of the interesting things about we're getting all this from a 25% ABV alcohol, right? This is not
flavor bomb.
This is not 50%. This is half that. It's 25%.
Yeah,
we're still getting all this flavor. We're still getting a lot of mouthfeel. We're still getting like there's quite a long taste as well. Like afterwards, it doesn't just disappear. It doesn't just wash out because it's a lower ABV. It still sits there. I get that mushroom flavor. Kind of hangs around.
Oily, like a slight oily.
Yeah. It's on tongue. Oil. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice, and I think
it's a really great. It's a really Look,
it's a solid one, and I think
I think it's really great. But let's just change this a notch.
Ooh, what are we gonna do?
Change this, and we're gonna do a thing called mizuwari.
Mizuwari is with water, right?
Oh shit, it's with water, right?
So we're trying to remember what this is. Basically, we're having with ice. Which is another popular way that
we're not going to add water with it, but we're going to have it with ice.
Yeah.
We'll swish it around a little bit. Very popular way of drinking it, adding water and ice.
Do you want a couple
you could do soda, maybe one or two.
So you've got oyuwari, which is
hot water.
Hot water.
Mizuwari, sodawari, which is with sodawari. I'm pretty sure
sodawari.
if you just add ice to it, it's technically mizuwari. Anyways,
probably
ice is just water, right?
That's true. Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways you can have it. As we said, much like a whiskey, you can have it with ice. You can have it with water to dilute it down a bit more. Yeah. But interestingly, you can also have it with hot water, which is great in winter. Something like this actually would probably be all right with hot water because it is quite a deep flavor. A lot
of the time, what they'll actually do is, and not to interrupt you, which I just did.
That's okay.
I had a thought. Like a lot of the time, what they'll actually do, very prevalent in Awamori drinking, but with barley shochu as well, as far as I know, I mean, maybe talking out of my ass, they actually will mix the water with it about a day before, day or two before.
I've heard of this.
So that the flavors can marry better.
Yes.
Right. So if they're doing like mizuwari or something, and generally they'll water it down from 25 to about wine strength, which is 12 to 15, and they'll let it sit there for a day or two to marry because when you add water to alcohol, it shocks the alcohol, right?
Yeah. So it wants to separate.
Yeah.
So you end up with it, and it's just like with whiskey, right? Sometimes you put ice, you put too much water or ice in whiskey, you can really drastically change the flavor profile.
Shochu flavor profile definitely changes,
and because it's single distilled. There's usually a lot more oils in the shochu, so you have to be more discerned. There's more effect that you can have with
straight up. You lose a lot of the nose, right?
Yes.
just kind of disappears.
Yeah.
Oh, and see, that's
Oh, wow.
totally different again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now I'm getting a bit of that, like, caramel coconutty, like,
Oh, yeah.
a
Okay.
little bit of caramel coconutty.
I was actually going to say that the black koji's almost
It's actually more.
It's been more.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
just
more of
about
that
to say
black
that.
koji flavor.
More mushroomy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, like, even more so. Right?
Way more mushroom.
No more bitterness.
No.
No more oiliness.
Like sweeter as well. Maybe that's like coconut or something coming through. If I'm gonna refer to our Honkaku Shochu Awamori flavor.
Sweet coconut, like you know, the desiccated,
desiccated coconut.
Desiccated coconut.
God, this is a great
So
way
it's
to,
a really,
become
really
to become a whiskey wanker.
Good drink. It's a great drink. I really like this one. This is the kind of shochu that I could just sit down and get pretty drunk on.
Yeah. It's
We've been drinking some sake tonight, and now we're drinking shochu. So
this isn't water, folks. This is a slight discoloration.
This is our palate cleanser, our palate cleanser, which is a really nice sake. But this is not a sake show. Nothing against sake.
Nothing against sake.
Well, technically, this is sake.
Technically, sake.
It's just alcohol.
You know, sake is just undistilled.
Sake is nihonshu, right?
Undistilled shochu.
Yeah, shochu is sake because sake is generally just a word for alcohol, right?
Sake is just true. That is true.
Yeah.
In Japanese, sake is just a word for alcohol.
Yeah. So
Nihonshu is what you say
Nihonshu.
for Nihonshu is what you say in Japan to get a sake. If you just say sake, they'll think that you're just wanting.
They might give you this, and then you're going to be a very, very happy fucking person.
Yeah.
Because this is a fantastic drink. Yeah, I think that like I could just sit down. What's your overall tasting notes?
This is a really good.
Great sipper.
Yeah, really great. And I'm pretty sure. Even though I said I've been to this distillery, I did not buy this bottle when I was at the distillery. I bought this distillery somewhere in Melbourne. I can't remember where it was.
Gone already.
But as a helpful hint, we can put this in the link in the description. We will hit up some websites where you can buy it from. You can also go. There's some stores in Melbourne where you can go to and you can walk in. You can probably buy this bottle. I just can't remember which store I bought it from.
Sorry for the rest of the world, but we are very Australian centric at the moment. You could probably find it from what's that great place? There's maybe that place in America that everybody knows.
Oh yeah.
Sake Mart. Oh no, what is
Sake,
it? Umami Mart.
Umami Mart. Umami Mart.
Maybe look at those guys. We don't know. Well, Honkaku Spirits. They've got some good stuff as well.
But otherwise, there's a couple of places in Richmond and in Melbourne that you can get this from. Otherwise, sake.
Black Market Sake
Sake in Sydney. You can probably get that from, and
a few other places. We'll find some links.
A few other places. We'll chuck them in the description for you if you're interested.
I would definitely drink this in a nice. This is for me. This is like a warm summer's day afternoon drink.
I could probably have this in winter too, though.
Yeah,
I think it's got enough depth to it that it kind of warms me.
Let's be fucking honest. I could drink this anytime,
all the time, all the time.
Anyways, cheers, man.
Sorry.
Kanpai.
Kanpai.
And please subscribe to our channel and follow us along. And we're going to be talking a lot more shit about shochu.
Yeah, and definitely. If you've got any comments, you've got any feedback, let us know as well. We're always happy to hear.
Yep. If we're wrong, we want to hear.
Yeah, sure.
Because we love being wrong.
We will get wrong.
Yeah, because that's how you learn.
Yes.
Anyways, thank you very much, all our shochu fans.
Is that going to be our tagline?
No,
Is that going to be our fucking catchphrase?
You know what?
Oh,
you know what? That's a terrible fucking catchphrase, and we're going to invent one, and we're gonna find one.
We'll workshop it for the next one.
We'll workshop. If anybody has any suggestions, please leave it in the comments because we have no idea. I'm so used to doing my invert and irrikanji videos that I'm like, I was about to say thanks Toy Fiends. I'm like, oh no, wrong video.
We've been Tano Spirits.
Yeah. We're Tano Spirits.
We're Tano Spirits. Until next time.
Till next time.
Kanpai.
Kanpai.